Hello, ladies and gentlemen, look around you for a moment. Every face you see today, including your own, carries a clock that never stops ticking. Every second that passes is a piece of your life you will never get back. The question is, who are you spending those seconds on? Too many of it. Waste our most precious hours on people who smile in our presence, but hope for our failure in silence. People who take our kindness as weakness and our time as something cheap. Your life is not cheap. Your dreams are not toys. And your heart is not a playground for those who don't know how to value it. Today, I want you to hear me clearly. Your life is important. Too important to be drained by fake people who only show up to take, never to give. Too important to let someone else's negativity define your future. This is not just another motivational talk. This is a wake-up call, because the clock is still ticking, and the choice of who deserves your time begins now. Today, I want to remind you of something we often forget in the rush of daily life. Your life is precious. It's not just the number of days you live, but how you choose to spend those days. And one of the biggest mistakes we can make is wasting our limited time and energy on fake people. Your life is a gift. Every moment is a currency you spend. Once it's gone, you never get it back. Yet too often, we give this priceless currency to people who do not value us. Fake people appear charming. They pretend to care, they smile when you succeed, but deep down, they're only there for their own benefit. They vanish when you need them most. Investing in them is like pouring water into a broken cup. You keep giving, but it never fills. When you surround yourself with fake people, you lose more than time. You lose self-respect, your energy, and sometimes even your direction in life. You may start doubting yourself because of their words or feel trapped in their endless dramas. But remember this, you are not here to please everyone. You are here to grow, to learn, and to fulfill your purpose. That purpose becomes clearer when you set healthy boundaries, when you say no to relationships that drain you and yes to your own peace. Authenticity matters. Real friends uplift you. Real companions celebrate your success and stay during your failures. Seek such people. They may be few, but their presence is worth more than a crowd of pretenders. If someone constantly makes you question your worth, it's time to step away. It's not selfish, it's self-respect. Letting go of fake people frees up space for genuine connections and allows you to focus on your personal growth. Healing after betrayal or disappointment isn't easy, but with every step away from the wrong people, you move closer to a life filled with purpose and authenticity. So today, make a promise to yourself. Stop wasting your life on those who don't truly care. Spend your time wisely. Invest it in people who are real, in dreams that inspire you, and in goals that give your life meaning. Your life is too important to be spent as someone else's entertainment or backup plan. Live it with dignity, live it with purpose, live it surrounded by people who see your worth. Life is not just a series of days passing on the calendar, it is the rarest opportunity we are given. Every heartbeat, every breath, every sunrise we witness is a reminder that we are alive for a purpose. We often take this for granted, assuming we have endless time, but the truth is, life is limited. Time is the one resource that cannot be earned back. Think about it. You can recover lost money, rebuild relationships, even restart your career. But the moments you waste can never be retrieved. Every second you spend is a piece of your life you'll never see again. That makes your time and energy far more valuable than gold. Many people realize the true value of life only when they face loss, regret, or a crisis. But wisdom lies in understanding it now, not when it's too late. When you truly recognize how important your life is, you begin to guard it. You become careful about where your energy goes, what influences you allow near your heart, and who you give your trust to. Life is a precious story being written by your choices. Every day is a blank page. Yet so often we let fake people, negative influences, or meaningless distractions take the pen from our hands. We allow them to scribble on our pages, wasting chapters that could have been filled with purpose and progress. You must see your life as a rare gift. something so valuable that you cannot afford to hand it over to those who do not appreciate it. Every step you take, every decision you make, should honor that gift. When you realize this, you start to live differently. You start to question, am I living this day in a way that truly matters? Am I giving my time to what makes me grow, or to what pulls me down? And it's in this awareness that the journey begins, because once you recognize the priceless nature of your life, time is the invisible thread that weaves the fabric of your life. It is silent, it never stops, and it never waits. Every tick of the clock is a small piece of your existence slipping into the past, never to return. You can earn more money, rebuild a business, recover from mistakes, but not a single lost minute can ever be bought back. What makes time so powerful is its fairness. Every person, whether rich or poor, young or old, receives the same 24 hours each day. Yet the difference between a fulfilled life and a wasted one often lies in how those hours are spent. Many people squander their days on meaningless arguments, empty conversations, and the approval of those who do not truly care for them. When you waste your time on fake people, those who deceive, manipulate, or drain your energy, you're not just losing moments, you're giving away parts of your future. They take your focus, they delay your dreams, and they keep you circling in the same patterns while the world moves forward. Time is also deeply personal. It's more than the numbers on a clock. It's the experiences you create, the growth you achieve, the peace you protect. When you realize how precious it is, you become intentional about your mornings, your choices, your relationships. You start to ask yourself, is this worth the hours I will never get back? Imagine your life as a sand timer. The sand grains fall quietly, one by one. You can't stop them, you can't reverse them. Each grain represents a chance to learn, to love, to move closer to your purpose. And every grain wasted on people who don't respect you as a grain you can never use to build the future you deserve. That's why the way you spend your time reveals what you truly value. If you give it to distractions, to empty friendships, or to voices that don't lift you higher, then your most valuable resource is slipping away without meaning. But when you guard it, when you invest it in real connections, in growth, in purpose, time begins to work for you instead of against you. Your energy is as precious as your time, maybe even more. While time keeps moving no matter what you do, your energy determines how much you can accomplish within that time. Every thought, every emotion, every conversation draws from the same inner reservoir. If you keep pouring it into the wrong places, you'll soon find yourself drained, even if you still have hours left in your day. Fake people are like leaking containers. No matter how much care, trust, or support you pour into them, it never fills them and it never returns to you. They thrive on your attention but give little back. They can smile in your presence, speak sweetly to win your trust, and yet their intentions are often rooted in self-interest. The real cost of dealing with such people isn't just the time lost. It's the emotional and mental energy that could have been spent building yourself, nurturing genuine relationships, or moving closer to your goal. You pay this cost in sleepless nights, in unnecessary worries, in second-guessing yourself after their manipulation or betrayal. Consider how heavy it feels when you constantly try to prove your worth to someone who will never truly value you. That heaviness isn't just emotional. It becomes physical, affecting your focus, your drive, even your health. The mind grows tired from endless conflict. The heart grows weary from constant disappointment. And your spirit slowly dims because the energy you invest never returns as growth or peace. Fake people also have a way of distracting you. They bring drama, chaos, and negativity that consume your mental space. Instead of planning your future, you're caught up reacting to their games. Instead of reaching for opportunities, you're busy untangling their lies. The longer you stay entangled, the more expensive the cost becomes, because what you give them is not just energy for today, but also the momentum you could have built for tomorrow. When you think of energy as a currency, you start to notice where it flows. Imagine pouring all your strength into a field that will never bear fruit. Imagine tending a garden where the soil is poisoned, and no matter how much you water it, nothing worthwhile grows. That is the hidden toll of investing yourself in fake people. One of the greatest challenges in protecting your life and your time is learning how to recognize fake people. They rarely introduce themselves as false. They don't wear a sign that says, "I will waste your energy." Instead, they often arrive with charm, kindness, and an appearance of support. That's why they can slip into our lives so easily. Fake people often reveal themselves through patterns, not promises. In the beginning, they may say all the right words, offering help, cheering for your dreams, acting as if they are always on your side. But watch closely. Words are easy to give. It's the consistency of actions that tells the truth. A common sign is manipulation. Fake people know how to twist situations to their advantage. They may make you feel guilty for saying no, push you to question your own instincts, or pretend to be the victim whenever they're confronted. They use your kindness as leverage, not as something to cherish. Another sign is the presence of lies, big or small. Sometimes it's not a huge betrayal, but a series of subtle untruths. Saying one thing to your face and another behind your back, giving excuses that never add up, changing their stories when it suits them. Lies are like cracks in glass. At first they seem small, but they always spread. The absence of loyalty is perhaps the most painful indicator. Fake people are there when the weather is fair, but disappear at the first sign of a storm. They celebrate you when it benefits them, but stay silent, or even turn against you when you truly need support. They don't walk beside you on the hard roads. They're merely passing travelers seeking comfort and attention. It's often in the little details that their nature is revealed. The smile that doesn't reach their eyes, the way they shift blame instead of taking responsibility, the way they vanish when you set boundaries. It's not always dramatic. Sometimes it's as subtle as the way you feel after being with them, tired, smaller, doubting yourself. Genuine people leave you feeling seen and steady. Fake people leave you feeling drained and unsettled. Recognizing them is not about becoming suspicious of everyone. It's about becoming aware. It's noticing the difference between someone who corrects you with care and someone who criticizes you to control you. Between someone who stays quiet out of respect and someone who stays quiet because they don't want to be caught in their own lie. And as you begin to see these patterns clearly, the manipulation behind the kindness, the lies behind the smiles, the loyalty that fades when it's inconvenient. One of the most invisible yet most devastating costs of keeping fake people in your life is the constant emotional and mental drain they bring, unlike physical exhaustion, which you can often recover from with rest. This kind of fatigue seeps quietly into your thoughts, your moods, and your sense of self. At first, you may not even notice it. It often starts subtly, a conversation that leaves you feeling unsettled, a disagreement that lingers in your mind for days, a promise that was broken but you convince yourself to overlook. Bit by bit, these moments pile up, and soon your heart feels heavier, your mind more cluttered. Fake people often create an atmosphere where you feel as though you're always walking on a tightrope, watching your words, questioning your reactions, and doubting your own feelings. This constant self-monitoring drains your emotional energy because instead of living freely, you are stuck analyzing, defending, or explaining yourself. Their presence can quietly distort your inner peace. You start your day determined and calm, but a single message or interaction with them can shift your mood entirely. You find yourself replaying their words in your mind long after the conversation has ended, wondering if you were wrong, if you should have said something different, if maybe you're the problem. This isn't just a drain on your emotions, it's also a mental distraction. Energy that could have gone into focusing on your work, building your skills, nurturing your dreams, or even simply enjoying a moment of peace gets consumed by overthinking and emotional repair. It's as if you're carrying an invisible backpack full of stones everywhere you go. Stones you never needed to pick up in the first place. Over time, the cost becomes more than just feeling tired. It begins to influence your self-image. The constant exposure to negativity or manipulation can make you question your own worth. You might start lowering your standards, excusing behaviors that once you would have never tolerated, and confusing survival in that relationship with real connection. The worst part is that fake people rarely acknowledge the toll they take on you. They drain your strength and then blame you for being too sensitive or too serious, leaving you to carry both the weight of their behavior and the guilt they project onto you. When you pause long enough to notice this drain, when you sit quietly and feel how much of your energy is tied up in trying to manage these relationships instead of living your own life, at the heart of every strong and peaceful life lies self-respect. It is the quiet recognition that your time, your emotions, your boundaries, and your dreams have worth. Without it, you become vulnerable to the influence of those who take more than they give. Self-respect is not about arrogance or pride. It's about knowing your value without needing constant proof from others. It's the inner voice that reminds you, I deserve honesty, I deserve to be treated with kindness, I deserve relationships that do not belittle me. When that voice is strong, fake people find it hard to manipulate you. Dignity is closely tied to self-respect. It is the way you carry yourself, how you choose to respond when others try to test your patience, your worth, or your boundaries. It doesn't mean you never feel hurt. It means you don't let the hurt dictate who you are. A person with dignity can walk away from disrespect even when their heart wants to stay, because they understand that staying would be more costly to their spirit. When you give up your self-respect to keep someone's attention, you trade something irreplaceable for something temporary. You begin to shrink in order to fit into places where you were never meant to belong. You start apologizing for your standards, excusing poor treatment, convincing yourself that being tolerated is the same as being valued. This erosion is slow. It often begins with small compromises, ignoring a lie to avoid conflict, laughing off a cutting remark to keep the peace, accepting inconsistency as if it's just human nature. But each compromise chips away at your dignity until one day you realize that you've lowered the bar so far that you barely recognize yourself. Self-respect is like a shield. It protects your emotional energy, it filters the relationships that enter your life, and it draws a clear line that says, here is where I stand and here is what I will not accept. When you hold that line firmly, you discover that you don't have to fight for attention or beg for kindness. People step forward and the fake ones quietly fade away. And as you begin to feel that shift, the growing clarity about what you will allow, the quiet strength that comes from honoring your own dignity. Self-respect is more than a feeling. It is the foundation on which every healthy choice in your life is built. Without it, you can have talent, intelligence, kindness, and even success, but you will keep allowing others to decide your worth. With it, you can stand in silence, you can endure storms, and you can protect your heart even in a world full of distractions and deception. At its core, self-respect is a recognition of your own humanity. It is the quiet realization that your thoughts, your emotions, and your dreams deserve space in the world. It tells you that you are not an afterthought in someone else's story. You are the main character of your own. Dignity grows from this recognition. It shows in the way you set boundaries without shouting. It's in the way you say no to what harms you, not because you are hard-hearted, but because you are clear about your value. Dignity is not loud. It does not need to announce itself. It is felt in your presence. How you hold your head when facing criticism, how you refuse to let anger drag you below your own standards. Many people lose their self-respect not because they do not know it is important, but because they believe that sacrificing it will keep love, approval, or friendship. They stay silent when they should speak. They tolerate lies because they fear loneliness. They accept treatment beneath their worth because they think that is the price of belonging. Each of those moments feels small in isolation, but together they begin to carve away at the core of who you are. Every time you excuse disrespect, a part of your inner strength weakens. Every time you settle for less than you deserve, a small voice inside you starts to whisper that maybe you are not worthy of more. Over time, that whisper becomes a belief, and that belief shapes the way you live. But dignity has a way of waiting for you. It does not disappear, it simply grows quieter until you are ready to listen again. The moment you pause and ask yourself why you keep tolerating what breaks your spirit is the moment dignity begins to stir. It does not demand revenge, it asks for recognition. It calls you to lift your head, to remember that your life is not a bargain to be traded for someone else's attention. There is a calm strength in a person who knows their worth. They do not need to shout, they do not need to prove themselves in every room they walk into. They carry an invisible boundary that says, I will give kindness freely, but I will not allow my kindness to be used against me. And as you reflect on that boundary, as you feel the subtle shift from needing acceptance to standing firm in your own value. Boundaries are often misunderstood. People sometimes hear the word and imagine walls, rigid barriers that shut others out, but real boundaries are not walls, they are guiding lines. They don't isolate you from the world, they help you move within it with clarity and respect. They define what you will allow in your space, your time, your mind, your heart, and what you will not. Every healthy relationship, whether with friends, family, or colleagues, is built on a shared respect for boundaries. They are like invisible fences around a garden, not there to keep the garden locked away, but to protect what grows inside from being trampled. Without them, even the most beautiful garden is easily destroyed. The absence of boundaries is one of the reasons fake people gain so much power over us. When you have no clear line, you let their moods dictate your own, their demands drain your energy, and their disrespect creep into your life in small, unnoticeable steps. A person without boundaries often ends up living someone else's story instead of their own. Setting a boundary is not an act of anger, it is an act of self-care. It is saying, I will listen to you, but I will not let you shout over my inner voice. It is saying, I will help you, but I will not let you use my kindness to break me. Boundaries make it possible to love without losing yourself, to give without being emptied, and to forgive without being trapped. Many people struggle with boundaries because they fear rejection. They believe that if they say no, they will push others away, but in truth, the ones who are truly meant to be in your life will respect those lines. Those who protest, those who resist, often reveal themselves as the very ones who were taking more than they were giving. Boundaries also create space for peace. They reduce the noise around you. When you know where you end and where someone else begins, you stop carrying burdens that do not belong to you. You begin to realize that you don't have to react to every opinion, fix every problem, or respond to every demand. You gain the freedom to choose your battles, to keep your heart steady even when the world around you is unsettled. It takes courage to draw those lines, especially with people you care about. It can feel as though you are pushing them away, when in fact you are making it possible to have a healthier connection. A relationship that cannot survive honest boundaries is usually a relationship that was quietly harming you all along. And as you start to draw those lines, sometimes shaky at first, sometimes challenged by those who benefited from your silence, you begin to notice the difference in how you feel, the weight that lifts from your chest, the clarity that returns to your thoughts, the sense that for the first time in a long time, your peace is being guarded by your own hands. In a world where numbers often seem to define worth, how many followers you have, how many names fill your contact list, it's easy to believe that the more people around you, the stronger or safer you are. But the truth is that relationships are not measured by how many you have, but by how deeply they nourish your life. Quantity can be deceptive. You might be surrounded by a crowd and still feel profoundly alone. You might have 100 names in your phone yet hesitate when you truly need someone to call. Fake people often gather in numbers. They are drawn to noise and presence, not to genuine connection. And for a time, that crowd can feel comforting, until the moment you stumble and realize how few hands reach out to catch you. Quality in relationships is something quieter, more enduring. It is built not on convenience or appearance, but on trust, respect, and mutual growth. A single honest friend who listens without judgment can outweigh a dozen acquaintances who only appear when life is easy. One person who cheers for your progress without envy can add more strength to your spirit than a room full of those who merely applaud your success to share in its shine. Choosing quality means you begin to look beyond smiles and polite words. You pay attention to consistency, to integrity, to the way someone treats you when you have nothing to offer in return. You notice who remembers your boundaries, speaks truth even when it's uncomfortable, who is willing to stay when silence replaces laughter. This choice also requires courage, because it often means letting go of the illusion of belonging that large circles can provide. It asks you to trade popularity for depth, to risk standing apart from the crowd so you can stand closer to those who truly matter. And it can be lonely at first. Shedding superficial connections often leaves empty spaces that once were filled by noise and distraction. But slowly, you begin to realize that space itself is valuable. When you no longer fill your life with people who drain you, you create room for the right ones to enter. You also give yourself the chance to hear your own thoughts again, to rebuild your energy, to understand what kind of presence truly enriches you. Quality relationships often grow slowly. They demand patience because trust cannot be rushed and depth cannot be forced, but they endure storms that superficial connections cannot survive. They don't need constant performance or endless explanations. They thrive on honesty, even in silence. And as you start to shift your focus from how many people you can gather around you to how meaningfully you can walk beside the few who matter most, the people around you shape your inner world more than you often realize. They influence how you see yourself, how you face challenges, and even how you dream. This is why choosing the right company is not a luxury, it is a necessity for protecting your peace and nurturing your growth. Authentic, supportive individuals are not always the loudest or the most visible in your life. Often, they are the quiet presences whose words carry weight because they speak from honesty, not from the desire to impress. They may not shower you with constant praise, but they give you something far more valuable, the truth delivered with care. Such people have a rare quality: they respect your boundaries while encouraging you to reach higher. They do not demand your energy in exchange for their attention. They don't use your vulnerabilities as tools for manipulation. Instead, they hold space for your struggles without judgment and celebrate your progress without envy. Being around people like this creates an atmosphere where your spirit feels lighter. You find yourself speaking more freely, thinking more clearly, and daring to take steps you once hesitated to take. Their presence feels like steady ground beneath your feet, not because they remove life's challenges for you, but because they stand beside you while you face them. Supportive people bring out your better self. They challenge you not to break you down, but to help you rise. They push you toward your goals when you feel like giving up. Yet they also remind you to rest when you're close to burning out. They become mirrors that reflect your potential instead of your flaws. Surrounding yourself with such individuals often requires a shift in willingness to let go of relationships that were built on appearances or convenience. Sometimes this means walking away from the familiar in order to make space for the genuine. It may mean spending stretches of time with fewer people, but finding that those few connections feel more like home than the biggest crowd ever could. It's not about seeking perfect people. No one is without flaws. It's about recognizing those who are genuine in their intentions, who can admit when they're wrong, who will stand with you when it's inconvenient, not just when it's easy. Their loyalty isn't measured by how often they agree with you, but by how consistently they care for your well-being, even when they must disagree. And as you begin to notice this difference, the calm that comes from being with people who don't play games with your trust, the quiet strength you feel when you know the support around you is real. Self-awareness is the light that allows you to see yourself clearly amid the noise of other people's opinions, expectations, and judgments. Without it, you become vulnerable to being defined by the voices around you, the praise that lifts you too high, or the criticism that pulls you too low. With it, you gain the ability to stand steady, neither inflated by flattery nor diminished by doubt. Knowing your worth begins with understanding that you are more than the roles you play for others. You are more than someone's child, someone's friend, someone's employee, someone's partner. Beneath all those roles is a person with unique strengths, vulnerabilities, values, and a life that cannot be measured by someone else's approval or rejection. Self-awareness means you pause long enough to observe your own patterns, the ways you respond under pressure, the needs you tend to ignore, the boundaries you tend to let slip. It's the courage to look in the mirror without excuses, not to criticize yourself, but to understand yourself. From that understanding grows a sense of worth that is rooted, not fragile. When you lack self-awareness, it's easy to hand over the power to define your value to others. Their acceptance becomes your validation, their disapproval becomes your shame. In that state, fake people find it easy to manipulate you, because you keep reaching for their recognition as if it were proof of your significance. But when you develop a deeper awareness of your worth, you stop chasing validation. You begin to recognize the difference between constructive feedback and manipulative criticism. You stop lowering your standards to hold onto people who don't respect you. You realize that walking away from a harmful relationship isn't arrogance, it's self-preservation. Self-awareness also allows you to honor your limits without guilt. You learn to say, I can give, but I cannot give everything. I can forgive, but I will not forget who I am. This kind of understanding doesn't make you cold, it makes you authentic. It allows you to connect with others without losing yourself in the process. Often, this awareness grows in silence, in the moments when you step back from the noise and ask yourself why certain patterns keep repeating, why certain relationships leave you drained, why some opportunities excite you while others feel hollow. In those quiet reflections, you begin to uncover what you truly need, what you truly deserve, and what you will no longer accept. And as you sit with that awareness, as you start to sense the unshakable worth beneath all the doubts and expectations, the worth that no one can grant you and no one can take away. Your life is far too precious to be spent chasing the approval of those who never truly cared. Your time is too limited to be drained by distractions, and your heart is too valuable to be bruised by false intentions. Do not confuse attention for respect or noise for support. Learn to honor your own worth, to draw the lines that protect your peace, and to choose the few who lift you higher over the many who only hold you back. Remember this: the people you allow into your life shape the person you become. Choose wisely. Surround yourself with honesty, kindness, and authenticity. Walk away without guilt from those who diminish you, because walking away from what is fake is often the first real step toward your own freedom. Your life is not a rehearsal, it is the one journey you get. Live it with dignity. Invest it in those who value it. Guard it as treasure it is. And when you look back years from now, let it never be with regret for time wasted on the wrong people, but with pride that you chose truth, peace, and purpose over everything else. Because at the end of it all, the greatest gift you can give yourself is a life lived in the company of the real and a heart unburdened by the weight of the false.